An incident on a Russian state TV last week confirmed that Moscow is using Iranian drones against targets in Ukraine. However, both countries have denied such reports.
Как, в принципе, изменится мировой рынок, спросим у эксперта. В нашей студии Руслан Пухов, директор Центра анализа стратегий и технологий, член Общественного совета при Министерстве обороны России.
Руслан Николаевич. Сильно лодку раскачивать не будем, поэтому я очень прошу вас сильно на этих иранских, потому что это классика истории. Жопа есть, а слова нет, да? Мы все знаем, что они иранские, но власти не признали.
Руслан Николаевич.
And Saudi Arabia's friendship with Russia against Western and especially American interests is deepening. How come Russia is getting closer to two Middle Eastern countries that have been at war with each other for so many years? Hello everyone, I'm Shafi and welcome to the new episode of Polit Affairs. The public denials by Russia and Iran, despite overwhelming evidence, highlights the expanding common ground between two nations bound closer than ever by their leaders' anti-Western worldview, the economic isolation under sanctions, and efforts to make a multipolar world not depending only on a sole country. The relationship of convenience has grown increasingly vital for Russia. Russia is turning to Iran for attack drones and missiles. And Iran's first experience of indirect engagement in a European war has highlighted the critical role Tehran can play more than it has done in recent 2 centuries. The closer ties between them could redraw regional alliances for decades to come, as the Kremlin balances tricky, compelling relationships with Iran for weapons and support to sustain the war, and with Saudi Arabia, Iran's bitter rival, to keep oil prices elevated and the West in critical economic situation. This has always been Russia's priority in the Middle East, to engage equally with all powers and not to let one of them get upper hand. For now, Turkey, Iran and even Saudi Arabia are getting closer to Kremlin, while Israel, as another power in this region, is getting away from Russia. Iran's arms sales to Russia mark a serious shift, the Islamic Republic's first intervention in a European war, and a military role that poses uncertain risk for the United States, Israel, Turkey and others. I don't want to count reasons once more why Islamic Republic of Iran decided to get on such a risky policy. If you have not watched my video on this issue, you can watch it here. But at the very least, it shows Iran has lost hope for any sustaining deal with the West, for ending economic hardship under sanctions, and for ending hostilities with European capitals. So it has chosen one side of the conflict in Europe to flex muscles and to project its power outside of the Middle East for the first time. Negotiations did not break Europeans' will to end hostilities, and this might break their resistance by force. This is at least what many officials believe in Tehran. Russia's war against Ukraine has upended the geopolitical order in a manner not seen since the fall of the Berlin Wall, with persistent threats of nuclear strike, mutual accusations of plans to use a dirty bomb, and growing evidence that both countries have committed war crimes. Fears of a new world war have never been greater. Joe Biden, despite pre-election promises, continued the same policy as Donald Trump against Tehran. Recent political unrest in Iran only increases the likelihood that Iran will turn to Russia for support, with Moscow able to use its veto as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council to block any action against Tehran. And here we are now. Tehran is now the only country supporting Russia in its war against NATO in Europe. Western nations are rushing to supply Ukraine with better air defenses, but missile deliveries from Iran could tilt the balance in combat, resulting in further destruction of Ukraine's infrastructure and a longer, bloodier war, as Putin bets that Western unity will eventually fracture and that support for Ukraine will gradually disappear. We have seen some ordinary Iranian drones play a vital role for Russian army in recent weeks. However, it's normal if some of them get shot, because sometimes they are used as shields for cruise missiles in order to draw attention of the defense systems. And now we'll see how Iranian ballistic missiles could work in Ukraine. Moscow and Tehran fought on the same side in Syria, but the relationship has grown far closer this year, cultivated in a flurry of meetings between Russian and Iranian officials. I have to say it again. It was not Iran and Russia who decided to get closer to each other, but it was wrong policies drawn in Washington that forced them to get closer and to become not only friends, but even allies against the West. For all the talk, the alliance poses risks and there is lingering distrust between Russia and Iran. Russia previously voted in favor of UN sanctions on Iran over its nuclear program, and Iranian leaders saw Moscow as unhelping during the international talks that led to the 2015 nuclear deal, or the JCPOA. Putin sees himself as a player who does business with all sides in the Middle East, but his war in Ukraine has contributed to global economic turmoil, particularly in the energy sector, and is creating political headaches that will require Putin to move carefully through delicate regional rivalries. Washington's relations with Saudi Arabia have soured over its decision this month to cooperate with Russia to cut oil production and keep prices high, and Biden has warned of some consequences for what they have done with Russia. Saudi Arabia and others see Washington losing interest in their region, making cooperation with Moscow potentially more fruitful for them. Putin said in a foreign policy speech Thursday that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was merely pursuing his own national interests. Israel has also come under increasing pressure to help Ukraine, as Putin's war is increasingly seen as a testing ground for Iranian drones and weapons that could be turned against Israel. So the biggest winner in this game is Vladimir Putin, as he is able to push Iran and Saudi Arabia away from the West and use their potentials in its own war in Europe. But still, Iran and Saudi Arabia are also using the situation to their benefits. So here I think the West is the loser, and it should know that. No one is not permanently dependent on them, and their habit of breaking relations and promises when they don't get as much as they want is not welcomed in the Middle East, where loyalty is a key moral trait. Thanks for watching. I will be glad to hear your opinion on this, so write it down for me in the comments. Also, don't forget to check out other videos on my channel.